Hello everyone. Today's video is top 20 bands that I recommend. Actually no, top 20 bands that I love and recommend. There you go. Because a lot of people obviously ask, keep it to a top 5 or top 4 or whatever. I don't script these lists, so I just thought, well, this one. I've also got another video that I'm in the pipeline of doing. So anyway, on to the top 20 bands. We're keeping it to one artist because we'll be here all day. And we're also going to try and it'll be obscure, whatever. So anyway, in at number 20 is Wishbone Ash. Wishbone Ash are a fantastic prog rock band from the 70s. They're an offshoot. They had King Crimson's drummer for a while. They're kind of... Calling them a prog rock band is kind of... calling them a prog rock band is a little bit of an understatement. Because they've stepped into sort of the pop territory and some of the hard rock territory. So, I would suggest listening to their early stuff, Argos. I wouldn't recommend their new material just yet, because, their new material is quite good. But I would recommend their old stuff. Argos, in particular, is a fantastic album. At number 19 is Rock Islands by Jethro Tull. I've picked this album just of other albums that they've done, but Jethro Tull in general. I'm actually picking an album. I just thought that would be one that I recommend that, people start listening to before they listen to anything else. When I saw Jethro Tull live at Maryport Blues Fest, I recognised some of the songs. And, they started off playing, Proud Mary and Aqualung and all that stuff, but then they started playing and then towards the end they played the stuff off Minstrel in the Gallery and Rock Islands, which seemed to be one of the hard rock stuff. Now, bear in mind, it's Jethro Tull in the 90s, so it's more of a hard rock feel. It's a real straight rock album. It's Jethro Tull at the heaviest, the hardest. They've still got that sort of proggy, sort of classic rock feel to it. It's but it's Jethro Tull at their best. If you like organs, if you like flutes, if you like whistles and all that, but you also like your hard rock riffs. I kind of saw where Dream Theater were going with one of their sort of organ solos on one of their albums. It sounded very like that. So I really recommend that. Another album that I recommend from Jethro Tull is Songs from the Wood, just because it's in that period. But I do obviously recommend Aqualung. So there's 3 albums I recommend from Jethro Tull. Absolutely amazing stuff. By the way, I'm not actually recommending. I'm not sort of keeping to one album. And I'll talk about the artists. I might talk about several albums, but I might do just the top 10 albums that I'm into that they've done. So number 19. Number 18 is Yes. Now, Yes, I'm keeping at this, the bottom of the list. I just think, I don't know what it is. Their first few albums are pretty good. Topographic Oceans was supposed to be one of the best albums, beginning to end, listen type of albums. For me, it just didn't do what it was supposed to do for an album. It's a bit of a disappointing album. It's got a couple of good tracks on, but you can tell it was a difficult moment for the band. I think probably an album that I would recommend from Yes is Close to the Edge. It's a really good album, and Yeah, it's 3 songs. It's like an album within an album. You could see what they were trying to do because everybody was trying to copy the Beatles with Sgt. Pepper's and, trying to do what they were trying to do with the album stuff. So, with the concept album, but obviously this wasn't a concept album. However, you could see that Yes were trying to tell a story with music. Not just tell a story through the song, but through the instruments. You're trying to, there was different scenes set, like, the first part was sort of towards the edge, that kind of going sort of that, sort of climax towards something, sort of greater, and there's amazing organs in it, and just loads and loads of keyboards and lots of great solos. I think it's the band at their best, and unfortunately we lost the drummer. He went to King Crimson, and it's got some of Steve Howe's best work, and some really good production work was done on Close to the Edge. So it's one of those albums that you do have to sit down and listen, but you can easily just listen to one song off it. It's an album with no skip tracks on it. And, it was at a time when, you listened to an album from beginning to end, you never skipped it. So I think that was also the intentions of the prog rock era, was kind of, it was also the era of the beginning to end album, or we was getting to the era of where albums were becoming like little films, I guess. You had the sleeves with the most amazing artwork to go with the music, because I think it's guess what people were doing back in those days. It's not something that I suggest that anybody does. At number 17 has to be Rush. Now, Rush are an amazing band. I would say they're post-prog, but I would say that just sort of great stuff. I just think Rush sort of... They dabbled with glam rock a little bit in their early days, but they also dabbled with, other things, like different things, and they managed to just, the amazing sound that they had, that Rush had, and I think, we saw some anthems from Rush. We saw just some great drumming, obviously, from the band, so it would be silly not for me to put Rush on my list. At number 16, I'm going to stick another prog band on the list. I'm going to stick quite a few prog bands on the list. Camel. I think Camel, an amazing prog band. If anybody wants to get into prog, I suggest you start with Camel before you listen to Genesis or anything else like that. Camel were an experimental band within the prog scene, and there's just absolutely amazing stuff. Lots of atmospheric moments, lots of space rocky moments, lots of sort of, it's like you're held within the moment with some of their stuff that they do. They even did some sort of chill tracks, but it's one of those those bands where I've spoke about bands that, you really sort of feel the instruments of whatever everybody's playing, and I've never felt like that since I was a kid, and you listen to Camel stuff, and it really, you're really focused into what the musicians are doing, and just there's this amazing work that's going on, and I just think, I don't know what it is. I think the musicianship is just like, it's one of those things. There's great keyboard playing, great guitar playing, great drumming. There's one song where they do call and response. It's just absolutely amazing stuff. I mean, you can hear bits of Pink Floyd, bits of, Genesis, bits of everything. It's like they've crawled into every single corner of the prog rock world. So it's really a band that to start on with. If you really want to start with something sort of proggy and, weird time signatures and all that kind of thing. And number 14 is, talking of chilled bands, is a band called Sigur Rós. Now, Sigur Rós are a very sort of chilled out band. It's really nice sort of lullabies. They use some nice organs. Again, I was sort of in the prog world when I was listening to this band, and I just thought really it sits somewhere nice if you've got a prog rock music collection. Maybe you might just want to stick this band in. It's something different to listen to again, but I just think that this band, they stem somewhere in the collection. They stem somewhere in there, which is, they have to. I mean, even, a bit of Sigur Rós, you can't really go amiss. They've even done some new stuff, which I was listening to the other day, which I was amazed. It's like, wow, it was everything that they do is quite new and fresh, and that's what it needs to be. So, give Sigur Rós a listen, give them a try. They're an Icelandic band, and they are fantastic. And, again, they might not be everybody's cup of tea, but again, they're a band to focus in on. At number 13, I'm going to stick in a little bit of techno. Jamie Liddell. I like Jamie Liddell, but I don't know. He got overrated when he got into that beatbox stuff, when he got us this live looping, and it upset me when Beardy Man didn't credit him, because I think it was Jamie Liddell that was the first to do that, and everybody else was to follow. And he wasn't the first to use live looping, but he was the first to do what he did with the live looping technology, which was fantastic. And number 12 is Runrig. Runrig are a Scottish group, a Scottish pop group, and I love their early stuff. I didn't really like their later stuff, unfortunately. The stuff that they did in the 2000s, I was really disappointed by their later work, unfortunately. But and what an amazing pop group. I should give them a listen, because their early stuff is, listenable, puts you on the spot, and at number 11 is the Incredible String Band. Now, I would really give these people a listen. I was at college and I was doing some psychedelic work, and my support worker recommended, give the Incredible String Band a listen, give them a try. Now, I'll tell you what, they stick in my music collection, even in my Spotify collection. I love the Incredible String Band. I love the work that they do, their little sort of folky songs, but they have that twist and turn. They take you sort of over the treetops into the misty mountains, and there's like a hidden world that they take you in. It's like it could be anywhere. Speaking of taking you into hidden worlds and things, at number 10 is a band that I absolutely bloody love. It's Hawkwind. Hawkwind are an amazing band. They take you into different spaces, and they take you sort of over the moon and into the stars, and there's that kind of electric blues feel and space rock, and I think they even dabbled with a bit of ambient. I'd recommend Hawkwind. At number 9 has got to be Merzbow.
One notification. Facebook. Now. Karina Bayless mentioned you in a comment in Southport, says no. Artist name.
Now,
Mic lock button is on.
before anyone says anything, I have Merzbow in my Spotify playlist, and I really, really love Merzbow. Again, it's not to everyone's taste, but I really think that they should just give this guy a listen. He actually did, I mean, the Pulse Demon album is a very difficult album to listen to, but there's some sounds in there you just think, have a little of this, it's like, it's noise stuff, it's noise music at its best. But his earlier stuff, his earlier work was, he did some loops and riffing and all that kind of stuff. But he always says in interviews that he was never happy with his earlier work. So it's one of those things, and I would definitely recommend Pulse Demon. It is an album to, just take a listen. Just take, give it a moment. Give it a moment. At number 7 is... number 8. I forgot what number 8. Is a band that I hold near and dear to me. And that is Pendulum. I love their new work. I love their old work. Fantastic band. Drum and bass. Absolutely amazing stuff. Number 7 is Atari Teenage Riot. Now, this band they sort of, to call them dance music is kind of, electronic music. But they really do, I liked some of the solo projects that they have, like Alex Empire and all of them, that, they really sort of bring to the table their political ideas and everything to the table, along with other things, and what they really have to say, and they really, really mean it too, which is great. You can feel that energy that they have within their music, and especially some of the live cuts they put on the albums. And Alex Empire really talks about the techno scene and the punk scene, and this band is not what you'd call techno or punk. There's just that sound to them. I really recommend giving them a listen, giving them a try. Right at number 7 is another band that I've not really put on my list yet, and that's Caravan. Now, Caravan, a Canterbury rock band. They, my favourite album has got to be The Land of Grey and Pink, which is the best way to start, really. It takes you on a journey, doesn't it? It takes you on a journey through the forest, into sort of like from the hippie place to sort of a different place. And it's like there's a warm feeling to the album, there's just this beautiful folky sort of rock, classical, just everything combined into one. I think there's a bit of country and western sneaking in there. You can sort of tell where it is. Like, it really twists and turns, and and Winter Wine has got to be one of my favourite tracks from Caravan. So, yeah, that's my number 7. At number 6 has got to be Gentle Giant. Now, I've spoken in other videos about Gentle Giant, but I've never spoken to them about them at this great length. Like Camel, I like some of the other bands I mentioned. This band really, when you listen to them, you focus right in on the band. You know, you focus on what they're playing, you know, what the drummer's doing, what the keyboardists are doing. You know, people have been inspired to play classical instruments like trumpets and horns and goodness knows what else. And the band was sort of flirting with country and classical at the time. And sort of rock kind of just came in there. And it was kind of, you know, there was two people in the band that was sort of from like the bluegrass scene. It was like bluegrass and folk and rock mixed together, and it really sort of took a twist for the band. I don't think, again, you know, I don't think they fit into the prog rock circle, and I don't think they tried to either. You know, if you hear some of the work that they do, you know, there's some hard rock creeping in there. There's some mellow classical stuff creeping in. There's, you know, world type music creeping in. There's all kinds of things. And they, even though they came from two different backgrounds, it was like that there was nowhere that they could, you know, it was like the sky was the limit for the band at that time. You know, the keyboard playing is just absolutely phenomenal. The drumming's phenomenal. The vocals are phenomenal. And the lyrics are just very clever. And I would recommend 2 albums, Octopus, In a Glass House, and Freehand. Those are 3 albums, isn't there? Also, I would also check out there's 2 live albums that they've done that are really good. And obviously do check out Interview. And yeah, it's just, I think I liked the record sleeves. My dad had the record sleeves. I also liked the In a Glass House album cover. It was very nitty and witty. It was a record that nearly got shelved by the record company. It's a great album all round. And yeah, the one of the guys from Gentle Giant started off a record company, and I think Bon Jovi went on that label for a while. Again, there was I think there was a rumour that one of the Gentle Giant members went into Bon Jovi at one time. But, you know, Ozzy Osbourne's singing style was inspired by Gentle Giant later on in the Sabbath career, his solo career. So anyway, in at number 5 has got to be Plastic People of the Universe. Now, I've got them in my Spotify playlist, but I couldn't get them in my CD collection or anywhere else. But Plastic People of the Universe, fantastic, great art rock band. It's quite a sad story, but also an amazing story. And it just goes to show that we are very lucky here for what we can do, what instruments we can play, and what music we can play, and how we can express that music. You know, how we can take that to the world, really. So it really takes it onto the rock and roll front. So, yeah, I was just giving them a listen. They are an amazing band, and Frank Zappa had a great support for them. So, yeah. In at number 4 is another really strange band. They're called The Residents. Now, again, I've got these in my Spotify playlist. I don't like everything they've done, but I like some of the stuff they've done. I think it's pretty clever, and some of the avant-garde stuff they've done. It's kind of, they were trying to bring avant-garde into the charts. You know, and I think you could probably see how that would have gone if a band did bring something like avant-garde into the charts. So I think it's great to see like a band, you know, do all of that. And, you know, the way they sort of popularized everything, you know, they were a weird pop group. And I just love it because it's weird. You know, it's out there. It's real far out stuff if you're into that stuff, you know. And so I really like The Residents, but I don't over like them. I don't know why I've put them in the top 10, but anyway, I've stuck them in there. In at number 3 is got to be Nirvana. Amazing band. Been listening to them a lot recently. So yeah, Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, grunge. They were like the kings of grunge, really. Well, they kicked off the whole grunge scene. You know, there would have been no grunge if Nirvana hadn't. They had to call the music because it was Sub Pop before then, and everyone was like, "What the hell's Sub Pop?" Oh, it's grunge, you know. And a lot of 90s rock bands followed suit. Even the 90s punk bands. They thought that like grunge was the new punk. Yeah. So in at number 1 has got to be Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band. And I've got to say, I would recommend 3 albums to listen to. First is Trampmaster Replica. That is a concept album that goes off the rails. That's all I can say about that album. And you can tell the pain that those musicians were put through in that moment. But it was the drummer and the guitarist say that after that time, it was difficult for the management to get them doing, get the band to do something. And Beefheart had to sort of go his separate ways with how he was doing. The band sort of quit and changed, and he was forced to go commercial a couple of times, and but also Frank Zappa produced the album, and you can hear that you can tell Frank produced it. If you listen to it closely, you can hear how the guitar sound was used later on in The Mothers of Invention. If you hear One Size Fits All, you can tell it's a Frank Zappa album. Another thing was, like, Frank Zappa kind of was responsible for getting the sound that Captain Beefheart really wanted for the album, and getting those sounds shaped the way that they wanted. Nobody could understand the album, and nor would you want to understand it. It's kind of like trying to understand what's on a screwed up piece of paper almost. I love it though, because these musicians can play, but you can see that they were forced not to get on with each other in a musical sense. And you can tell the bass is not doing what the guitar and the drums are doing. But you can tell that there is immense work on this album. And it is a fantastic album. It's an album that's trying to be listenable and unlistenable at the same time. And it asks the question, what is unlistenable? And obviously, The Spotlight Kid is an amazing album. I like Safe as Milk, but I really think it was a bit poppy, It was like avant-garde, but poppy. You could tell it's trying to be a weird album, but there are some great songs like Sure Nothing Yet and Abba Zaba, really clever. Really clever stuff on there. I think, there were some problems upstairs with Don Van Fleet later on. You hear him in interviews and you can just tell he's not there. It's difficult to watch later interviews of him, but I think he, you know, I think he was pissed off with the way that record labels were treating him and management and stuff like that. And so he tried to go his own way. And I guess if we didn't have Tramp Mash Replica, we wouldn't have things like All Crumbs. We wouldn't have, well, we certainly wouldn't have Napalm Death, and we wouldn't have all the really heavy bands.
Mic trigger. Mic. Finish recording.